Welcome to the Savory
Savory
Scoop.
Scoop.
This is a safe space where we have conscious conversations on mindset, conscious nutrition, and several healing techniques that can help us support in our physical and emotional well being.
So, my name is Christina Cherian. I am a family physician, and my focus is on educating patients on plant based nutrition and disease reversal.
My name is Debbie DeVica O'Neill, and I'm a holistic health, nutrition, and culinary expert. And my focus is on conscious culinary and nutrition coaching.
And my name is Simi Poten. I am a yoga instructor, and I focus on developing a mindset that can help us with our physical and emotional well being. And I'm so excited to be here with you, ladies.
So
Me
excited
too.
to be here too.
So today's topic is shameful eating.
Yes, and really how nutrition is not only the things that we feed ourselves, but all of the things that we put into our body. You know, like the things we listen to, the things we see, the things we read, our internal thoughts to ourselves.
Absolutely. All of that is consumption, right? So, I think our goal with this is to help to encourage kind of conscious consumption, what you put into your body, what you put into your mind, and just having a place where we can just get together and just chat.
I love that. I know when I was just thinking about the two words shameful eating, there's so much shame around eating, right? Like every time like we go on a diet and then we fall off, we have this guilt and shame that comes up. And then, or if we have some type of like if we're binge eating or there's this shame and guilt, and then we try to like hide it. We don't want to share it because we may feel judged by others, you know. So, what I'm excited about is the fact that we're here to be vulnerable and share our experiences where we have experienced shame, we have experienced those judgmental thoughts, and it's not fun. Right? Like it is not fun to
No.
go through all of that. But it's also to know that, you know, it's part of this journey that, you know, but there is a way to transform and kind of get through those challenges.
Absolutely. And we're hoping by sharing our stories that we can inspire others to have a safe space to forgive and accept themselves and to help others to deal with, you know, what they're
Yeah.
going through in their journey as well, wherever they may be.
Right, exactly. I know, Debbie, you have an amazing transformation story to share.
Thank you.
And if you don't mind just sharing, like, you know, what that has been like for you.
Sure. I'm an Italian girl foodie with food allergies. So, growing up, I was very sick. I had a laundry list of symptoms and like IBS, rashes, bloating, migraines all of the time, brain fog, like diarrhea. Let's just be real. Candida, all of those uncomfortable things that people deal with and often feel like, these are just things that I have that are just normal. I just have these things. And, nobody really realized, what was going on with me. And so when I started to realize that these things were all food related, I just immersed myself into learning about nutrition and started with myself by eliminating certain things and doing tests, with myself, little experiments with myself, and then really educating myself in all things nutrition and health. And wherever I could, I would just study different modalities. And then I started helping my family and neighbors, and then friends, and friends would, refer their friends to me, and I would help them. And I really learned how to recreate those favorite foods of mine that I loved but wasn't able to eat that would make me feel horrible by replacing the unhealthy ingredients with, healthy ingredients. But how that all kind of ties into shameful eating, I think we all kind of, like with all of those symptoms that came along with that, like headaches and bloating and, maybe feeling like, I don't know, like, that bloating makes you feel very uncomfortable. And then kind of dealing with like the hard parts of eliminating certain things out of your diet and then, eating those again and then how that affects you and then having shame about that and feeling guilty and just really like we said before at the beginning of this, like it's okay. Like we all have steps back on this, on the journey, but it's okay if you fall off or, that's part of the discovery, part of the discovering those things that hurt you, what foods are making you feel horrible, what foods are giving you brain fog, what's giving you the migraines, it's developing a really deep sense of self-awareness. And then when we do eat those things that are hurting us, just being gentle on yourself and being like, you know what, it's okay. Yeah. Like I'm aware and I can make a change and that's okay.
Yeah, I think, especially when you are on that journey of trying to figure out, what works for you and what doesn't, right? People tend to label foods, right? As good or bad, healthy or unhealthy. And that can cause a lot of that shame when you do consume that food that, does hurt you physically, right? It's not good for your body, but it also just creates so much of that, the emotional repercussions of that.
Like the stress and anxiety. Exactly.
Exactly. Totally. And that is, that's so hard when you're going through something like what you've gone through with all the allergies and stuff, from like a physician standpoint, at least from a family physician standpoint, right? You have patients coming in all the time and a lot of younger women who will have these sets of symptoms. And it is so tied to the diet. And as a physician, right, we only get like that 15 minutes in this health system. Right. How is it possible to discuss, like, hey, your body, this is what you need to do. And it's going to be a journey, right? How do you support that? And then also address all of the shame associated with, going off of that track or that path, right? Where you're trying to be so rigid. Yeah. And that's really hard.
It's very hard. And going back to the word anxiety, there are certain foods for me that cause anxiety. So being aware of those foods, I think that a lot of us have those foods. So being aware of those foods that do cause the anxiety, the depression might get us into a place where we want to binge eat or, eat certain comforting foods or cultural foods, or sugars or things like that give you that instant, boost of the dopamine or whatever it is. Exactly. Right. But then they do make you have horrible anxiety or you're sick the next day. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then just kind of being gentle with yourself and being like, you know what? That's okay. It's fine. I'm aware of this and I'm going to make a shift. Yes. A small shift.
Absolutely. And it's interesting how you brought up culture, like, being an Italian, from Italian culture. So the other thing I was thinking of was also like I grew up in India and I moved here when I was like almost done with 7th grade. Oh. And in India, at least at that time, like no one really talked about like an ideal body or like there were no conversations like, I mean, there were other issues like, people who were dark wanted to have like light skin and other areas like creams and stuff. But
we're the opposite. Everybody wants to be tan.
Right. So it was like, so that concept was not even in my head as a 12 or a 13-year-old. Like, and I moved here and I remember like, that was huge here as a teenager, like, or a preteen. People were talking about diets and I was just like so confused. I'm like, and then next thing you know, over the years, so I didn't understand like shame and guilt and judgment and all that stuff around eating, at least, and then once I started noticing, those things started to creep up in my head too. And then I started wanting to diet once I got into high school. Granted, I gained a lot of weight because I moved here and I started eating potato chips and Coke. And like, that was my
The American
a bit of the
diet.
standard American diet, the
Yeah.
sad diet.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was not even knowing it was sad, but yeah. And so, yeah, but, and then I got into, and then, of course, like I started dieting and I would just eat half a sandwich and I started losing all the weight and I started feeling good about myself because I got that ideal body, right? Like I was, I just felt like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be. So like culture and upbringing, like how much all of that can create that shame mindset as well, like over time. And then it's almost like you need all these practices to heal that. Yeah, unlearn that.
Yeah.
It's like deprogramming.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
I was thinking when you mentioned, growing up in India, every time we would go back to India, it would always be, oh, you look like a stick.
Me too. I get
Right?
that all the time.
You look like a
You
stick.
need to eat a
Italian
sandwich.
And that creates
Look at you. Ooh, you're skin and bones. Go eat a sandwich.
Yes.
And I'm
right.
like, well,
that also
sandwiches
like
make
you're
me
not
sick.
eating
Yes.
enough, right? And then
Right.
it's like, well, I was a kid, and then what kind of ideas are that putting, is that putting into the mind of a young girl about, I was normal body mass index. I was normal weight, right? But you go over there and culturally there are those differences, right? Because you don't see that in the US. Right. And so it's just interesting how it happens. Like
So different.
it's remarkable.
Even though things are like changed. And now I do appreciate that. At least, I mean, this might be just me, what I'm seeing and watching, because like, Google knows what you Google.
yeah.
And so, but I do notice like there's a little bit more trend towards healthy way of living as opposed to, looking this way or trying to, find that ideal size or whatever it is. I think
It's so refreshing.
yeah.
It's very refreshing. I think, especially in certain like medical disorders, where people have this, they're trying to achieve a certain body type, right? A lot of those, they're associated with perfectionism and what's called all or nothing thinking, where it's like, it's all of it, I get there, or it's the total opposite, right? Which is what kind of happens when you have disorders like bulimia, binging disorders, right? So it's that all or nothing thinking that plays into that as well. It's all it's all related there.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And I guess it's that all or nothing. Like I think that's one of the reasons many of us go on diets and then we fall off diets, and because we have that mindset, or we were like, you know what, I'm gonna start on a Monday. Like something's gonna change, or like so it's
Or the new year.
Exactly. I was just thinking the new
Right?
year. We just had the new
Exactly.
year, and it's like everyone's like, okay, we're gonna start on this day, and then it's like, oh, you fall off. Well, that's it.
Yeah.
It's like.
Or I'm going to do this for the month of January.
Exactly.
And really the healthy thing to do is to, in baby steps, day by day, create a sustainable, healthy lifestyle rather than calling it a diet, or labeling it or eating a certain way or following
Exactly.
like one way of eating or living.
Yep.
I think it's important to just call it a lifestyle and making that shift in words or the way that you speak to yourself about it.
Absolutely.
And then express that.
Yes.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I always tell my patients, how you eat the majority of the time is what determines your health, not how you eat on your birthday or Thanksgiving or anything like that, right? So you shouldn't really, we shouldn't criticize ourselves. We shouldn't be so hard on ourselves when we like, go off of our what our plan was, right? For our nutrition or our diet or whatever the case may be. And I love what you said about the labels.
Yeah.
Because once you go off of that label, people know you as that, you have that label. And then it's like you have the shame about not being what you said you were.
Abandon labels
Right.
for change.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
measurements as well. Like we live in a society where the patriarchal system really it's all about measuring everything. And it's this number and it's this measurement and you're supposed to be in this box. And that's not realistic.
Right.
We're all so different. So what works for me is not going to work for you or for you. Everyone is completely different. So that's why I think, it's so great to have each one of us who is just making suggestions about what we've been through and, to help other people. Like that might work for you. It might not. But, at least you can explore and find out what works for you the best.
Absolutely. There's no one solution for everyone. Yeah.
And there's no one
Very
size
true.
fits all.
There's no one size fits all.
There's only like, our fingerprints are so unique, like no one else before or after, right? So why would we follow this same diet plan, And like as a woman, I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's just like a human thing, but I feel like every decade things change for me. Like what I could eat like 10 years ago, it doesn't necessarily, support me, so I have to like shift, even though it's like super healthy food, so I could have lots of it then, but now I'm like, I can only have like a certain amount of it, and I don't know about you ladies, but one of the things I notice from an emotional eating perspective is, and again, that comes with shame too, but those are the things that, the practices have helped me tremendously, not just with shame with food, like shame in general, like with life, but like the three things I noticed in my past was like, and I still like, it comes up. It's when I am bored. Right? Like I'm bored and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I'll have this, it's okay, or when I'm really sad, I don't have a problem. It's like when I'm overwhelmed, then I start reaching for things. Like when I'm overwhelmed, I'm like, because it's the energy. I need to like release that energy. And it's like chewing makes you feel like you're releasing it, even though it may not be supporting me, right? And then
it gives you something to do,
right? Yeah, it's just like something to do.
Also putting it out there, alcohol.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Marijuana. Let's be real.
Yes.
Like different things.
Yeah. Different
can
people.
affect different people in different ways.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know definitely like when I'm feeling bored or if I'm just like watching TV, I've noticed like, oh, I'm feeling like I want to just eat something right now. It's and I think we'll probably talk about this more at some point, but removing the act of eating from anything else, right? Eating mindfully, Simi, like you talk so much about that, and that's so important. Right.
Yes.
But it's okay. Like I'm the type of person where I'm always hungry. I'm a grazer.
Me too.
I eat a little bit of something, all throughout the day, every 2 hours. And if I don't eat, like I feel it physically.
I'm the exact
I don't
way.
feel good, and people say to me, oh, like, where do you put it? And my husband's like, she eats more than I do. I'm like, I just listen to my body. If I'm hungry, I eat. If I'm not hungry, then I don't eat. And then going back to what you said, like if I'm on my day off on Sundays and we're hanging around, the house, and I'm like, I'm wanting to eat because I love to eat. And then I'm like, well, am I really hungry or do I need to drink some water? Like, or, like, and I'll go in the kitchen and like play around with stuff. And then I'm like, oh no, I'm not really hungry. I'll wait until I really hungry,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
It's good
Yeah.
to ask yourself, right? When that urge to eat comes up, like, am I actually hungry, or am I bored? Am I mad? Am I sad?
Yeah.
Yes.
Am I,
Yes.
anxious? And what am I actually feeling? Also, is this thirst?
That's a
Does
good
it
one.
does it
Yeah,
go away
exactly.
after I drink, a cup
That
or
is
two
so
of
true.
water,
Yes,
right? Because,
yeah.
like,
And
I don't know about
then-
you guys, but I'm
Yeah.
chronically dehydrated.
Oh,
I'm
me
trying to
too.
fix it.
I'm
But-
always drinking.
Yes.
Water.
And then how am I going to feel, like, ahead of time? Like, how am I going to feel after I eat this? Like, like the choice of what you're
Yes.
eating. Like, what is that choice?
Think about exactly. I love that,
Yeah.
because it's important to think about what you feel now, but what am I going to feel after this?
Yeah.
It's like when you don't want to work out, right? How am I going to feel after this?
Exactly.
Like, I never regret yoga, for
Yeah.
instance,
Oh,
right?
no.
Or a workout. Like,
Right.
it just doesn't happen, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
getting there, it's like you kind of have to think about how you're going to feel after the fact.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so it's that more
It's a
long-term
practice. It is a
thinking rather than that
practice.
instant gratification that everyone usually wants, right? You
Exactly.
eat that, craving goes down for a little bit, but it's
Yes.
not really addressing what might be going on beneath the surface,
Mhm.
And
right?
a lot of times people will say, well, I don't care. Like they don't, but they really do. And then that's where the shame and the guilt comes
Yes.
in. Like
Yeah.
they want that instant gratification and they're like, oh, it's fine. I'll just deal with it. But then what really happens after when they're feeling that way? Is it worth it?
It's like a crash
No,
that
it
happens,
is.
and
It's a
then you
crash.
beat yourself up, and
Yeah.
it's so much worse than the emotion that got you into
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
situation in the first place.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. And then it
Yes.
becomes a vicious cycle.
Yes, absolutely. And how you were talking about, Christina, about the whole noticing, and it reminded me of it was a Buddhist teaching or a technique. It's called RAIN, like RAIN.
Yes, I've heard of it. Tell us more.
So R is to recognize, like, when you're feeling emotionally overwhelmed or bored or whatever it is that you're feeling, you want to recognize that first. And then A is to acknowledge it. Most of the time, like when an emotion comes up, we want to run away from it. And running away from it is by either distracting ourselves with food or alcohol or drugs,
Whatever
or
vice it may
whatever.
be.
TV.
Yes, or TV, right?
Netflix.
Yeah.
Yes, binge watching. And then, but when you acknowledge it, when you're like, kind of holding space for it, you no longer are afraid of it, right? That emotion. And then I is to investigate, like, almost like sitting and understanding, like, or investigating, why is this coming up for me?
Yeah.
Where is the trigger? What happened maybe a moment
Mhm.
before that,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And then once you investigate, you have some understanding of that situation or of that emotion. And even if you don't, that's okay. Like, even sometimes when you investigate, you may not find all the answers of that in that moment. Maybe it's just about acknowledging, okay, this emotion's here. And then
It is what it is.
right.
Without judgment.
Without judgment, exactly. And then the last part of it, it's N, and that's Buddhist yoga teaching, non-attachment.
Yes.
And it's mostly noticing all of the thoughts and the emotions and the sensations in our body, noticing it, but not attaching to them. So it's almost like you're watching a movie, right? Like there's this, because if you can notice it, you can't be it, right? So when you start to notice,
The observer.
you're the
observer.
observer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that practice has, like, it has really shifted the way I deal with a lot of the things that come up emotionally, whether it's in personal life or it's with, food. Yeah.
Absolutely. I can totally relate with that, as well as the passing thoughts. Like thinking of them as clouds passing, noticing them, but allowing them to pass.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Because
That's really helped me because I am a thinker.
Yeah.
For
yeah, and on
sure.
our
We
way
all
here,
are.
we were
Yeah.
oh, absolutely.
Oh,
We were
yeah.
talking about, impermanence, right? There's nothing,
Mm.
no sensation, no thought is permanent.
Yeah.
They arise just to pass.
Everything is
Yes.
And so if
temporary.
you observe it, you'll notice that too passes
Right.
at some point, right? No thought, no
So
itch lasts
true.
forever.
This too
right?
shall pass.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So true. Like, I mean, do we like when I was 18, I don't know the thoughts I had. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
do we even remember
Well, things you
them,
thought were
right?
gonna like crush your whole world.
Yes.
It's like, do you even remember them? No.
No. Yeah.
Same goes for any passing thought you have that,
Yeah.
makes you want to go to something else to
Yeah.
satisfy an urge or a craving, right? Those
So true.
it's the cravings and aversions that we talk about in like Buddhist teachings. When you just observe them, they pass.
They do. They always pass.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do remember being younger though and, shaming different things on my body because of the way I was raised. My mother, she's a very beautiful woman, but because of the way she was raised and her culture and the time, the era she was raised in, where like her grandmother had her wear a training corset, it was those kind of times. But my mother's emphasis was always on, like beauty and having a curvy body and men like this and men like that, and just like she would focus on like her cellulite and her spider veins, and these are all things that I started to recognize in myself and shame myself for and dislike about my body, and that's something I really had to heal myself. That was a lot of internal work that I had to do with my relationship with myself, my relationship with my mother, like releasing the trauma, the ancestral karma, and all of the things. That's that deep work. And then just loving on all of those things, loving on every little dimple, every little spider vein and stretch mark and whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Like who said that? I mean, listen, imperfection is perfection, right?
Absolutely.
Like who said that all of those things are a bad thing?
They're normal.
They're normal.
Natural. They're to be
it's
expected.
natural.
It'd be strange
It
if they
is-
didn't happen.
Yeah,
Right?
it is what it is, and labeling that to be bad, it causes so much harm.
It does. It does. I think we all have things that we've picked up, right, as kids. That, one of my stories is like I would never leave the house without lipstick.
Really?
And I know where I picked that up. Like, I'm just like, it was my mom. She would always tell me to like, dress up before you go out, So then there's this one time my friend's like, what are you doing? We're just going to the gas station. I'm like, let me just put my lipstick on. But now, now I'm like, I don't wear anything. My hair is in a bun. And I'm like, now I may need some lipstick occasionally.
Right?
Like for this podcast.
You never need it. You're beautiful just the way you are, right?
Yeah, this is
But
why I
that's
love
so
you girls.
interesting.
Yes. Yeah, it's nice to be at a place where it's like, okay, I'm not going to wear any makeup and I'm totally fine with it. And I really don't care what anybody thinks. Like,
absolutely.
I'm cool with
I
it. Like, I
know.
am comfortable in my skin. And I've done a lot of hard work to get there.
Yes,
Absolutely.
To get here right now in this
Yeah.
present moment.
Absolutely.
And it's constant.
Yeah.
Things always come up, but it's observing them and really acknowledging and allowing it to pass. And loving and forgiving and being gentle. So important.
I think that's so important. Progress over perfection, just over the course of the whole life, like we think about, fad diets and, I'm just going to do this for 30 days or whatnot. And it's like, your focus should be on just slow, consistent change because that's what's actually sustainable.
Yes.
Aging
doing
with
something
ease
for
and
just a
grace.
little bit. Yeah, exactly. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, I think the whole idea of shameful eating, I think it's really just a lot of stories that's been passed down and from, not just like our families, but also peers and media and And these practices, like for me, are powerful to, almost like unlearn that
Yeah.
way of thinking, right?
Yes.
Like, and then also understand, like, I love your food, like, the way
Thank
you
you.
make such amazing dishes with, like, very what's the word I'm looking for? Like the new,
Love.
yeah.
Thank you. Love
Like
is the
love
main
for
ingredient
sure.
and
Like
the
but
secret
also
ingredient.
unprocessed,
Yeah.
Unprocessed, yes, like
Real
locally
whole
sourced.
foods, locally
yes,
sourced. I love
yes,
supporting the local food system. I think that's really, really important.
yes.
And using real single ingredient, whole ingredient food that hasn't been processed
Yeah, I
or,
think,
you know.
You were mentioning about how you get hungry like every 2 hours.
Yeah.
I'm the same exact way. And the neat thing is when you're eating foods that are like that,
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about how much you really eat,
Exactly.
right? You're not going
So
to be
true.
over consuming. And if you practice, those, the mindfulness practices and stuff, you're going to get more in tune with yourself.
Absolutely.
Recognizing when you're actually hungry, recognizing why you're eating, if there's true hunger or not.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the preventative care medicine is like my favorite, rather than like eating all the stuff like the processed food and stuff like that. We have been trained to um, kind of like wired to eat because we're also busy. And then you go to the medical system and then they just give you stuff to kind of like correct the
You got
symptoms.
IBS?
Band-Aid.
Here's
Yeah.
some
Oh,
Benadryl
here's a
for
pill.
So I
you.
love
Yeah.
that you're more focused.
Look at what the cause is.
Yeah.
Let's just give you a pill.
Yeah, it's just with the when we're talking about shameful eating, I think like there's so much room for improvement in like the medical system, obviously, because first of all, people only go to the doctor when they have something going on, right? And then what the doctor only has about 15-20 minutes to give for you. There's no
True.
way that you're going to be able to really get down to the bottom of things. It's really important to take a multidisciplinary approach, right?
Yeah.
You speak with a therapist that with all these conditions, therapy can be so beneficial, or finding someone that you feel safe with, someone you're close to who you can share your thoughts, and then learning to recognize your thought patterns, especially those surrounding food, is so important. Having a team around you, even if it's just friends,
Of course.
is like so important.
It is.
Absolutely. Well, I feel complete, with everything we've been sharing, and hope everyone that's watching feels like the conversation has been uplifting for them as well, because it's been uplifting for me to be able to share and also listen to everything that you both have shared.
Thank you. Likewise.
So nice to talk to both of you on this. It's lovely.
I'm so grateful that we're creating this safe space and this beautiful feminine energy for us all to communicate and to connect together.
Yeah, so if you guys, are watching on YouTube, feel free to hit that subscribe button and leave your comments down below. And go ahead.
Oh, no. Okay. Oh, I was just going to say, and if you have any questions or comments or suggestions, feel free to email us. It's connect at savoryscoop.com.
Please feel free to share with us if you have anything you'd like to share, if you'd like to share your experience with us, if you'd like to ask any questions, we're here for you.
Yeah, any topics you'd like us to cover.
This space is for you, anything you want to discuss.